Narendra Yadav, the absence of any massive populist scheme in the budget, would you accept that that would signify to people watching that the government is quite confident about its prospects in April, May? They know or they think that they will be back in July, which is why they don't need to do something overly dramatic, overly populist. Trying to ensure that the fiscal deficit is kept in order seems far more important than trying to announce some extra scheme which they think through the budget can help them win some votes. They were under pressure in 2019 after the defeat in the 3 heartland states in December 2018. But at this moment, that pressure seems to not be there.
It's all about how you put it, Rahul. Confidence and populism are the words you use. These are the words the regime would like to be used. It so happens that you have also used those words. I would put it differently. The regime is so brazen, not confidence, brazen, that it thinks that it doesn't need to do any welfare measure for the poor because they know that there is Godi media to play out, and they know that they can actually distract the people with Gyanvapi, with Hindu-Muslim issues to distract. I think Praveen Chakravarti made a very important point. Basically, I would sum it up by saying that this government is taking money from the poor, and then there's the other part of it, and giving it to the rich. This is what we should be debating. Unfortunately, we would be debating Gyanvapi. So the government is brazen because they think they don't need to. For example, just please get someone, this is my request to both of you, please get some economist through the day to clarify how is it that rural incomes have increased. This is another claim made by the Finance Minister, while the data indicates that rural wages have fallen. Jodres has established that.
Rajiv Kumar?
Rajiv Kumar, you wanted to respond? Yeah, Rajiv Kumar wants to respond to you.
About both Praveen and Yogesh, this point about indirect tax and direct tax share, the GST has improved the indirect tax collections, and it's a much lower rate than it was earlier. But I think the Finance Minister made
Which isn't a bad thing.
Which isn't a bad thing at all.
I don't know why Praveen makes it out to be a bad thing.
And all the essential commodities are zero taxed, right? So it's not as if you're taxing the consumption of the poor under the GST. So GST tax collection improving and becoming uniform all over the country is a very, very big step forward. Now the next step about direct tax collections improving as we go forward, will happen as investment picks up. But the more important thing is that surely but surely, the tax collections have been used to build the physical and social infrastructure which are benefiting the poor and which are benefiting the middle class. So that money has been well utilized.
So you go along with her claim that average real incomes are up by 50%?
Average real income...
yes, Mr. Garg.
Just one second, but also on the rural wages, this statement is not substantiated by evidence that the rural wages have fallen. Yes, they have not risen as appreciably as the urban wages, and therefore there is some inequity. There is inequity now that's beginning to show up, but it's not true to say that the rural real wages have fallen over the last 10 years.
3 points. Number one, on the real incomes, I think what she quoted was 50% increase in per capita real income over 2014, which in 10 years is not a whole lot of things. If your average incomes have grown by less than 5%, compounded would be around 4% or so. It's not a very, that's what is substantiated by the overall GDP growth of about 5.8% over 10 years. This is much smaller. So it may not be incorrect, as Mr. Yadav is saying,
it's not
but it's not a very rosy or very something to be proud about. That's number one. Number two, on the tax composition kind of thing, now we have direct taxes which are contributing more than 50% than the indirect taxes, though in between for a couple of years the indirect taxes had gone and contributed more than 50% and the direct taxes were contributing less. But what is also true is that the corporate taxes portion of the total tax kitty is actually going down. So
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing if you look at from the rich perspective.
Why is it a bad thing?
Let me explain that. For number one, factually, that the corporate tax portion of the total tax collection is going down, It means that more is coming from the indirect taxes and the personal taxes, which the individual taxpayers are paying. At some point in time, this was 40% of the total tax collection was coming from the corporate taxes. Today, now it's about 27, 28%.